the reflection of dread. The mirror was already there when Lena pushed open the narrow door to her new flat. A dark, tall thing hung like a watchful guest in the hallway. It caught the thin winter light and made the corridor seem longer. Its silver was clouded, black at the edges where tarnish had eaten at the metal. She liked it at first, the way it gave scale to a small place. But that night, alone with boxes and the hum of city traffic, she felt watched in a way a piece of glass shouldn't allow. The glass held her as a map holds ink, a shape in a shape. It returned her tired face faithful enough, but every so often a fraction of a second would stretch between gesture and reflection, a lag like a delayed tape. She chalked it up to exhaustion. Late shifts had been unkind, but when she raised a hand and the reflection blinked just after, something in her throat tightened. The mirror seemed to remember its own rhythm, not hers. Small divergences followed. Once, while Lena was laughing at an awkward phone call, the reflection kept its mouth closed and watched, as if studying her from the inside. At night, returning from the laundromat, she would pause in the hall and find the mirror's surface holding a composure she didn't recognize, an attentiveness like someone waiting to be told a secret. She began, unconsciously, to hold herself still and see what the glass would choose to give back. Sleep shrank under the city's noise and the late hours at work. In those hollow, in-between hours, the mirror grew companionable in the worst way. It was there when she unpacked plates, there when she rinsed cups in the kitchen sink, always hanging at the edge of her life like a quiet roommate. She began to test it. Smiles held longer, fingers waggled, faces made, but the mirror answered in its own small dialect, delayed, slightly off, occasionally unmoved. On a reluctant impulse, she stuck a yellow post-it to the glass. Please stop. The note was childish and absurd, but the next morning the handwriting had been moved, the sticky edge curling, and a different word, almost a smudge, appeared beside it. Lena told herself she must have moved it in sleep. She inspected the adhesive. It was hers, the ink her pen. Still, the smudged mark felt foreign, like another hand had tried and decided not to finish. Maya, when she came over, laughed and said mirrors sometimes play tricks in small flats. She peered and said she saw only Lena, tired and real. It felt like relief until Lena noticed Maya's eyebrow twitch toward the mirror's lower edge, as if something in the glass had shifted behind her reflection. Maya shrugged it off. Old mirrors are weird. But Lena left that night with the feeling that jokes were armor cracked if pushed enough. Hidden at the back of the frame, tucked against the warped glass, Lena found a sepia photograph, a portrait of an occupant from another decade, head tilted just so, face turned slightly away. The apartment felt suddenly layered, renters stacked like clean linens. The person in the photograph seemed, in its grain, to be looking at something just beyond the frame, not posed for the camera, but caught mid-attention. The discovery made the hallway colder, as if history had a temperature. She started keeping a phone recording running, the way you leave a light on for a house that crept at night. Footage looked normal when she watched, a corridor of boxes and a woman pacing. Then at the edges of frames, the glass would swell and soften, as if the reflection had its own internal weather. Once, on playback, there was a second where the reflection's mouth moved while Lena S did not know sound, just that lopsided intimacy that makes a room hold its breath. When she tried to remove the mirror, it resisted with the weight of something half forgotten. It was heavier than it should have been, heavy like memory. She propped boxes beneath it and leaned it against the wall. Each morning she found it hung back where it had been, perfectly centered and cool to the touch, as if nothing had happened. She began to dream in reflections, corridors folding like paper, her face split into 100 patient halves. Waking brought no comfort. At first, the mirror's presence was a misbehavior. Then it became conversation. In the blue hours, she would stand and whisper things she scarcely admitted to herself, regrets, the names of old apartments, a childhood ache, and sometimes the glass answered back without lips. It replayed memories that felt borrowed, a particular subway corner she'd never visited, the smell of coffee that belonged to a stranger's kitchen. She could not tell if the mirror offered truths or rehearsals. One night, the reflection held a look she did not know how to name. Not cruel, but patient, like someone who had been waiting for a long process to finish. Lena turned away to put down a glass. When she glanced back, the reflection had its hand poised against the inside of the glass, fingers splayed the wrong way from her own. Her stomach emptied like a cup. When she reached, the glass was colder than the skin at her wrist, and for a second she felt a pressure, as if something on the other side was pressing back. After that night, everything narrowed. She covered the mirror with a blanket, then a sheet, then boxes. Each morning the covering sagged, a neat mound at the mirror's base, like a body that had decided to sleep downstairs. She considered leaving the flat, but the city has a way of moving you into other small scarcities: work, an unpaid bill, the polite inertia of everyday life. The mirror, when glimpsed through a slit in fabric, seemed to breathe on its own timetable. The last thing she did before she left was stand with both palms to the glass and ask the question that had come like a slow tide: "Who are you?" The reflection's answer was a look, and in it, an accumulation of small, wrong memories made whole. She didn't see violence. She saw a patient, settled intelligence that had been practiced in silence. Lena walked out with keys in her palm, the mirror left behind like a letter she could not bring herself to open. Weeks later, while rinsing a dish in a new apartment with newer walls, Lena looked into a shallow puddle on the sidewalk outside a bakery. For a moment, the surface showed only the sky. Then, as she blinked, a face tilted back at her that was mostly her and slightly not. It gave her a smile that remembered 100 small wrong things. She walked on, carrying the memory like a weight in her pocket. Some objects, she realized, are less places than questions. You never quite know whether they hold you or you hold them.